one child or more with labels, and you have a neurotypical child. And that puts different pressure on a family. So I think families know right off the bat that they need to spend time with each of their children individually. But I want to emphasize that because it's so easy to fall into the habit of spending more of your time and attention and energy on the child with greater needs. I just want to acknowledge that. Parents, it's okay. Your child does have greater needs, and you have to dedicate a greater amount of your time, attention, and energy to that child. That's just reality.
Yes.
But your neurotypical child or your second child with not as great needs a dedicated chunk of your time. So with my son, who also had, was twice exceptional, gifted, and had ADHD and pretty severe anxiety disorder once we realized what was going on with him. He was doing better in school. He wasn't as prominent in the way he displayed his needs, but he
Mm-hmm.
still needed individual time with me. So
Right.
what we did is I would take him to Taekwondo lessons in the evenings, and we would have dinner together. Even if it was just a fast food dinner, we'd go to the hamburger place and sit in our car and have, drinks and a hamburger. It was still 15 minutes that we were by ourselves, away from the house and away from our higher needs kid. He treasured that time. He really did. And I watched him during his Taekwondo practice. I'm the one who drove him to lacrosse and ice hockey and watched his practices. Now, my husband and I took turns attending games because he needed his dad to participate too. But I'm the one who drove him to his practices, and we had that time in the car to talk.
Yeah, I think a lot of times parents think that they have to schedule something big or
Mhm.
um, that it has to be something different than just that. But it honestly, the most connecting conversations and times that I have had with any of my kids have been in those moments where it's just us in the car. We can
Yes,
talk about things. I'm watching them play baseball, or I'm watching them do their thing that they love and cheering for them,
right.
and that they know that they their interests, their wants, their needs are important. Then we go
And
get
you're
a milkshake
not on your
afterwards and
phone.
we're chatting. Yeah.
Do not take them to practice and sit on your phone. Watch them play, cheer them
Mhm.
on. And then on the way back home, car time is so important because a lot of teens, especially neurodivergent and twice exceptional teens, don't manage eye contact really well.
Mhm.
That's actually, for example, in autism, a key part of their disability. Eye
Right.
contact is not preferred. In the car, when they don't have to look at you and maybe music is on, is
Mhm.
much less loaded, much lower sensory need. They're
Mhm. It
much more
doesn't
likely to
feel,
talk.
"Oh, my mom's interrogating me
Right,
and trying to figure out what I did wrong." It's just a conversation.
right. And you're talking about the taekwondo or the baseball game or the hockey practice, or wow, they made a goal or a save or an assist, right? Or something the
Yeah.
coach said. And it's much less pressured, and yet the connection is still there.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah,
that
I just wanna
15 minutes
remind
in the
parents
car
that
eating a
those
hamburger.
those times count. They're
Right,
not You don't have to necessarily, and not that having a scheduled, day out or an activity
right.
on, one Friday of the month or something is a bad thing. But if you can't make those things work because your family has a lot of demands, Those all of those little moments where you are connecting with your kid, where you're reaching out
Right.
for connection, you're sitting on the couch watching them play Minecraft,
There you go. That was
all
my
of
next thing.
all of those times still count.
Okay, so my son, even as a teen and now in his 20s, likes to crawl into my bed and show me a science video. We watch his favorite science YouTubers together. Do I understand everything of this higher math physics YouTuber? No. Does my son want to watch it with me? Now it's my favorite activity
Mhm.
because I can ask a question and my son gets the pleasure of explaining higher physics to me. This is a connection moment. This counts. And so the really important thing here is now that my kids are both adults, they do this together too. So here's
Mhm.
the second piece of this. So there's a parent child piece. But now we talk about the sibling dynamics. So
Mhm.
my kids are both into science YouTubers. They're both into higher math since high school and middle school. My kids are 4 years apart. They watch higher math and physics YouTube together. Blows my mind. Excuse me. So sorry there. But this is time that the siblings connect.
Right.
And so allow them to find ways to connect. Now, this is very important from a young age. So when my daughter was 8, my son was 4. You wouldn't think they had a lot in common. My kids played veterinarian together. My daughter was the doctor. She set up a little clipboard with check marks. My son at 4 would stand there with a long line of stuffed animals. And my daughter would say, all right, brother, bring me the next patient. And he would bring the stuffed animals and she would examine them with the little doctor kit. And he would check off what she told him to do. My husband's laughing because he remembers this. He's standing there listening to this conversation. This was a huge connection moment
Mhm.
between my two kids, and they played this game for years. Even as my son got older and now he could participate more and they could discuss the veterinarian needs of the stuffed animals, and they were both able to participate more as he got older and understood more. Neither of them want anything to, I mean, my daughter's a pastry chef and my son is an optical engineer creating medical lenses for miniaturized procedures. I mean, they have nothing to do with animals. They played veterinarian for years,
Mhm.
creating more and more complicated procedures. But starting from a very young age, my daughter, who's very autistic and rigid and had routines, was very bossy. But my 4-year-old son started participating at a very young age because this is my symbol for connection, Nicole. You've seen me do this a lot. Anyone who
Yep.
watches our videos has seen me do this. They connected. And I
Right.
didn't have to do anything. I wasn't involved at all. Occasionally I had to mediate a squabble or a fight over something, but this is how the siblings played. My daughter, who was rigid and very autistic, would set it all up. But my son was so pleased to be connected with his sister when they were 8 and 4. They did this for years,
Yeah, and I
years
think,
and years.
you know, um, I think it helps that he was younger, right? And
Yeah,
so she was going down to his level a little bit,
exactly.
and then they could connect. So my question is, in my family, we have the opposite, right?
Okay, can I just say one
Youngest.
more thing about it before you say the
Yes,
question?
yes, yes.
It was a low pressure, low key activity. It wasn't like a board game that has strict rules where
Right.
somebody could say they were cheating. It
Mhm.
wasn't an activity that needed a lot of parental supervision, right? It was very low pressure, very low key. He was given jobs that were within a 4 years old, a gifted 4 year old
Sure.
ability, right? And she gave him tasks to do that pleased a 4 year old. So I just wanted to mention that. It's not
Yeah.
like board games, turn taking, high pressure, cheating. It was a very low pressure thing where both kids could participate at their own level. Now, what's your
Yes.
question?
So, we have kind of the opposite dynamic where my one with autism is the youngest. His siblings are his next oldest sibling is 4.5 years older than him, and then my oldest is 7 years older than him. So, they are not wanting to join in on his play, and he will sometimes force his play upon them, and then we have
Good point.
issues. So that's kind of, I think, where we're struggling a bit with this is trying to find ways for them to connect
Yes,
because the dynamic is, his play is younger than even his,
his age.
his age.
Yeah.
And my 18 and 15-year-old sons are not interested.
Yeah.
And so then he's bugging them and he's bringing his game into the middle of what they're doing, and it causes a lot of conflict.
So you bring up the third point. So the first point was parents giving every kid dedicated one on one time. The second point was finding shared low pressure activities, which is going to
Mhm.
come into this right now.
Right.
The third point is giving your older ones age appropriate education about how to
Mhm.
include the neurodivergent child. So I want to talk
Yes,
about
and that
that
is where
now.
we are really struggling, so I would love
That's
some resources.
that's the third point that you bring up. So what this is about is talking to your neurotypical children about how to handle the needs of their neurodivergent sibling. Now, there are several aspects to this. So, one aspect is letting them know that they don't have to parent their younger neurodivergent child.
They will not stop. No
They
matter
will
how much
stop.
I have let them know.
They will stop because it's just in how you educate them. And the problem is that for whatever reason, they didn't learn to stop parenting them when they were younger. But now that they're older teens, we have to set clearer limits about the parenting. And so that's a very hard thing to do. So my younger child, the 4 year younger son, we've had discussions with him since he was really in middle school. He knows, he's known since a young age that when we're gone and not able to take care of our older child, she lives with us. She's not able to hold a full time job, that at some point he will have to care for her. Now, she is cognitively able to care for herself. She manages her
Mhm.
own money, her own doctor's appointments. She's not developmentally delayed in any way, but her neurological and autistic traits means that she can't live or work independently. And so when we're not able to take care of her, that he and his wife, she'll have to live with them and they'll have to take care of her in that way. Um, what's interesting about that is we've made it very clear that that's not going to happen until after we're gone or
Right.
are ill in our later years. And so we have made it very clear that he can have his own life until then.
Right.
And so that even when he only lived with us until he was 18 and went away to college. But even when he was younger, we stepped in quickly when he tried to parent her. So, one of the situations where older siblings try to parent the younger sibling is that parents have to be more proactive about stepping in and stopping parentified behavior. This is a parental role. So when you see your older kids or even younger kids who behave in a more developmentally advanced way because of the difference between your neurodivergent or less affected kids, you simply have to step in faster. The reality is, when parents are overwhelmed with one or more, in your case, 3 neurodivergent kids, sometimes it's easy to let the kids take over because you're overwhelmed as the parent. That's just reality. It's
Sure.
not good. It's not bad. It's the way our lives are.
Right.
But you're not doing your older kids a favor if you let them act in a parental role. And
So
it's not
here's
too late to stop.
no, here's what will happen, right? So when when you were we pick our battles, right? With some of the kids. We're working on this skill, we're not working on this skill right now. So we're not
Yes,
addressing that. The older child feels that we need to be addressing that. And so if we are not going to, then they will. And I will step in and say, nope, I'm a parent. I am the one who will decide when and if this
good.
needs to be addressed. Well, then
Yes,
address it. And I said, this isn't something we're working on right now. We're working on other things. Well, he can't just da, da, da. So that's where it kind of comes
good,
in, is when they disagree with the way that I'm parenting.
good,
And I will
good,
be
good.
actively in the middle of addressing a situation. And one will come in and I'm like,
Good.
nope, look at, do you see
So,
me right here parenting? You don't
so
have
I
to
want to
do it.
offer a different way to say it.
Okay.
So what I want to say is tell them to leave the room.
Okay.
Tell them, leave the room, go to your room. If you can't handle the way I'm handling this, you need to leave.
Okay.
You need to go to your room and shut the door, because I cannot have you interfering with the way I parent your younger sibling. This is not appropriate, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to give them a consequence. And their
Okay.
consequence is they have to leave. They can go to their own room. They can go to another part of the house. You may not speak to me while I'm
Right.
parenting your other siblings. And if they continue to escalate, right, then you
Mm-hmm.
have to give them the consequence of go to your room, because they are not behaving appropriately. But
Mm-hmm.
then you have to have a private conversation, you and your husband, if possible, because
Mm-hmm.
they need to see a united front. They
Yes.
cannot go to the other parent and say, Mom's not handling this correctly. So then you have to have a calm conversation with that sibling, and not to say, you cannot do this. It has to be an active listening situation. Now, we've talked about this in our previous years of doing this podcast. We haven't
Mhm.
addressed it yet. Let's schedule a podcast to talk about active listening.
'Kay.
So, what this means is, we don't say to your child, you cannot parent, you cannot interfere, because that does not address or validate their needs in the situation. And that's what has to happen. They're feeling unheard.
Mhm.
They're feeling that what they see as a problem with their sibling is not being addressed. And what
Yes.
validation means is, I can see how it makes sense to feel the way you feel, child, even if we disagree with you, even if we've chosen to handle it differently. So, the key issue here, the reason they keep interfering, is they feel that a need that they see as important is not being heard.
Sure.
So
It
what has
comes
to,
it
let me just
okay,
finish
give
this
it
thought, and then you can speak again. So the conversation you have to have with the 18-year-old is, let me hear your need. So they have to have the opportunity to say, the need I'm feeling is such and so. And then you paraphrase them. So, child, I hear you say that the need you feel is such and so. You only speak in service of hearing what they have to say. You repeat
Mhm.
it back to them in your own words. Then they speak again. And I feel this way because such and so. And then you paraphrase again. Oh, you feel this way because such and so. And they'll say, yes, that's right. And then they'll speak a third time. And the reason I feel this way is because it's disrupting the house, or younger brother is doing that. And you're going to paraphrase a third time. So the reason you feel that way is this disruption or this problem. And they're going to say, yes, you hear me. And you're going to tell them that the reason, that they have the floor because they're going to hold a pen, or they're going to hold a book, or they're going to hold some object. You're going to say, you're the speaker. You're the one who gets to speak. We're not going to say anything except repeat back what you say, so we make sure we hear you. And after they've had the chance to speak 3 times, you're going to ask for that pen to be switched to you. And then you're going to have the chance to speak. And you're going to say, okay, now we've heard what you had to say. Let me tell you my side of the story. And now you're going to say, we've chosen to not concentrate on that right now. We agree with you, it's important, but we think this other behavior is more important. That's the pick the battles conversation.
Right.
And you're going to ask him to repeat back what you say, not with a but, not defending his position, but just repeat back what you say. And you're
Mhm.
going to do that 3 times where he can only repeat back. And then you're going to pass the floor again and see if he could hear what you said. And that's all you're going to do. You're not going to solve it. You're not going to come
Right.
up with a solution. You're only going to have like a 10-minute conversation, and you're going to put on a timer where all you do is pass that pen and each listen to each other's side of the story. Now, how do you think that kind of conversation might change the tone of things?
I'm thinking of one of my kids in particular, because some of the times things that we run up against with this particular kid is, he's also neurodivergent and very black and white thinker. And so having kind of those kinds of conversations of, it works in the moment, like, right? We get to a place of understanding, and then the next day happens.
Right.
So I definitely think having some sort of like, I have the floor, you have the floor would be important with the two
Yeah.
of us, because we tend to talk over
So,
each other. And
so the next day when it happens again, you're going to say, you can't be in the room while I'm handling younger brother.
Mhm.
Please go to your room and think about the conversation we had yesterday.
Yeah.
And you're going to keep doing that and then go back to his room, pick up a floor, and have the conversation again.
Mhm.
And you're going to keep doing that until he's able to stay in the room with you without intervening. Now, there's a second part of this, and we'll schedule another podcast to talk about
I've
what's
got
the
my list here.
problem solving piece. There is a
Right.
problem solving piece where you come up with solutions, but you can't do that until the understanding part sticks. Because here's the piece, as long as they get overwhelmed by their need to fix the younger brother,
Mhm.
because what they're not understanding is that their need to fix is
Right.
not the same as the younger brother's needs. And
Right.
until they can separate their needs from the younger brother's needs, they can't be in the room while you're parenting.
Yeah.
That's the
I
distinction.
like the way you phrase that. Their need to fix is not the same as what the sibling needs.
Exactly. That's part of the sibling dynamic. And
Yeah.
I looked up some really interesting research about how this um, impacts the person the sibling.
Mhm.
And what it says is, for example, when the sibling of the neurodivergent person is impacted, for example, when they go to school and other people might tease them, ew, you have this weird brother. And there's some fascinating research about how able are they to withstand that teasing by other people.
Mhm.
And it has so much to do with how they understand the impact on them of having that neurodivergent sibling.
Sure.
So if they can separate their needs from their neurodivergent siblings' needs, they can withstand that outside teasing. But if they can't separate those needs, like we're discussing, then they get even more stressed by that outside
Interesting.
teasing. It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
they come home and they take it out on the sibling
Right. Or on the parents.
or on the parents. Right. So is this making sense to you?
Yeah, I think it kind of leads into, one of my next questions, which is, do you have any resources for kids on learning about their siblings' disability? Because we can have all the
Yes.
conversations we want, but I don't know if it's true for everyone's kids or just my extremely stubborn ODD neurodivergent kids. They don't want to hear it from me.
Absolutely.
I have no, uh, despite them knowing what both me and my husband do for a living and how much that has helped them in their lives and how many people we assist in this, when it comes to us trying to teach it to them, they're still teenagers whose parents know nothing. So,
There are
that
some
has been a
fabulous resources.
struggle to try and get them to understand, like, "Don't come in right now, please, because 'cause I'm on a call. I'll come and see you in just a minute, okay? Thank you." Understanding what their sibling, particularly what autism is, what it impacts, what things they cannot, like, the social things that they are struggling with, without making them feel like, "Oh, you're just making excuses for their behavior," right? When I will have these conversations with my older boys about, like, "He cannot do
Yep.
that. He has autism." Like, "You're just gonna say he has autism and that he still needs to da 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 da." So, yeah, some resources that I can just hand over to them that they can look through and try and get a little bit better understanding because they don't wanna hear it from me.
Yep. I am putting links in the chat right now.
Awesome. Well, go ahead and say that out loud, and then I will add them to the description because the chat doesn't always stick after the live stream.
Okay. So the first one is called siblingsupport.org. It has been around for ages. It is an absolutely fabulous program for siblings. They have groups, they have blogs, they have all kinds of amazing programs. The second one is the Eunice Shriver Center at UMass. Eunice Kennedy Shriver is an amazing member of the Kennedy family who created programs after her sister, who had developmental disabilities, was unfortunately given poor treatment because of her developmental disabilities, and she created an incredible sibling support program, which is housed at the University of Massachusetts. They both have amazing sibling support programs.
All right.
Now, a lot of local states also have sibling support programs. These are both national.
I'm going to go ahead and put those into our description so they will be there for future reference for everybody.
Now,
so if you go to the description, they will very shortly be down at the bottom after Dr. Susan's links.
Now, I'm finding one more. The ARC, which is a program that supports people with developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities, apparently, and I didn't know this until just now, also has a program for siblings. So I'm going to put that up here as well.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Now I will be digging into those because
yeah. So
especially
support
when everyone is at home, it is right at the forefront for us all.
Yes. So siblingsupport.org, by the way, runs workshops for siblings of all ages. They're called Sib Shops, which I think is an adorable name. But they have their website has stuff for siblings to just go on and explore on their own as well. I'm the most familiar with their offerings.
Okay.
Lots of states have local chapters that run workshops. I know Colorado does, but I don't know about Utah.
I'll have to look that up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, those are now in the description. So if you're watching this on replay, you can go ahead and click over in those and they will be available for you right there under Dr. Susan's links.
Great.
All right, what's next?
Did you have another question?
I'm sure I will.
Okay, well, then I'll keep going.
Move to your next thing and it will come up.
Not a problem. Let me go back to my notes and give me just a moment here. Okay, so what I really also wanted to talk about next was dealing with the complex emotions of a sibling of a sibling of someone who has neurodivergence or who's twice exceptional. Because I think this is a lot to put on a sibling.
Mm-hmm.
Because they see us as parents, we're taking our kid who has more complex needs to therapy multiple times a week, attending school meetings before and after school, leaving our kid who's maybe less needy or has who's neurotypical, maybe they have to do more things on their own because we're helping the other kid get dressed, take showers, managing their hygiene, writing reports, reading reports, taking them to doctor's appointments. And we don't have as much time to spend. We started the session today just saying this. Do we have as much time to spend on our kid who doesn't have as high needs. Or technically, as neurotypical, we think of them as not having needs. It's not true. Our
Right.
neurotypical or less support needs, you see in these quotation marks coming up,
Mhm.
they have needs as well. And we have to validate their emotions. Validation means we understand how you might feel the way you do, even if we haven't recognized it. We have to prevent them from feeling overshadowed, or we have to not burden them by giving them caregiving tasks.
Right.
And as I started this session, we don't mean to do that. And we don't mean to parentify them. But sometimes we say, can you do this task? Because we're busy with some other task.
Mhm.
We have to be very conscious of that. We have to talk to our partners if our husbands or wives are involved. And we have to make sure we are not giving tasks to our other child or children because we feel overwhelmed ourselves. We have to protect our other children from picking up tasks because we don't have the energy to do them. We have to plan with our partners to make sure that we are protecting the childhood of our other children and that we give the time and energy to our other children, not just to take them to um, their activities, not just to watch their sports, not to just make it to their recitals or their school events, but we have to protect their emotional well being.
Mhm.
That means they get downtime too. They get screen time. They get to sit in their bedroom and have friends over. We can't say to them, you can't have a play date today because your sister's having a bad day.
Right.
They get to have play dates at their house. We can't say you can't bring your friends over because it's going to overwhelm your autistic sister or brother.
Mhm.
That's not fair to our other children. We have to protect their childhoods.
Yes.
We have to give them as normalized a childhood as possible and not allow them to feel that they're losing out because they have a neurodivergent sister or brother.
I think, coming along with that is, we've gotta be very aware of, because the squeaky wheel thing, right?
Right.
That the one who's, in our family, it rotates sometimes which kid is in crisis and has the higher emotional
Exactly.
needs.
Yes.
But just because one kid is in crisis doesn't mean that the other kids' needs are on pause.
Exactly.
And making sure, especially with, 2 of mine are very out there with what their emotions are and what their needs are. They are
Exactly.
externalizers, but I have one who is an internalizer, and if I'm not paying attention, I will miss the signs that they might be going through something that's not necessarily crisis level, but is a need. Something
Yes.
happened at school and they need to talk about
Yes.
it, and we have to make sure that we are, taking the time to notice all, the needs of those other kids, of what might be going on. And that can be difficult when you've got one who is taking up all of your energy. We talked about
Yes.
a few weeks ago managing bandwidth. Um, and that, as a parent, we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves so that we have enough bandwidth to meet the needs of all of our kids, not just the one that's in the big
So important.
crisis time.
And we do that by thinking about the needs of each child. So for my son, he belonged to a youth group. It was very important to me that I meet all these other boys. I wanted to know who he was hanging out with, and I
Mhm.
wanted him to feel accepted in the group. So I invited, when he had like evening activities, they had their sleepovers, 10 to 12 boys at our house.
Oh boy.
and I fed them, right?
Brave.
And this happened like on a monthly basis or every other month basis for a couple of years in high school. So, what did I do with my autistic, panic disorder, sensory overload daughter? She would
Mhm.
come and sleep in our room so that I could monitor her. She would be
Mhm.
away from the boys who were stampeding through the main level of our house. She would
Mhm.
come upstairs and sleep in our California king bed with me and my husband. We have a bathroom up there, or she could sleep in her, in her brother's bedroom, which was on the top floor with us and had its own bathroom, instead of being in the basement, 2 floors down from me, where I
Mhm.
couldn't monitor her. And that way they could sleep in the basement or on the main level. They had access to the kitchen. There were 2 bathrooms, and that way I could go down. I could see that all the boys were safe. I'd have a bagel, and lox breakfast for them or make eggs for them in the morning. It turned out when they all had cars later, they'd go out at midnight and go to McDonald's. I was asleep. I
Mhm.
didn't even know, but that was fine because I could check on them. I, trusted my son. I knew all the boys by then. I would
Right.
rather have them all be at my house where I could be sure they weren't drinking, smoking marijuana.
Mhm.
They were safe in my house. I preferred that, and I could protect my older autistic daughter. And I knew
Mhm.
she wasn't being overloaded. They weren't interfering in her space. So she would come up and sleep in my bedroom or her brother's bedroom next to mine. And the boys had the bottom 2 levels of the house. I loved it because they all loved being in my house. I put out all kinds of food and
Right.
snacks, and I
All
had
you need for the teenage boys, make sure you have a lot of snacks.
they all bring their sleeping bags. They slept all over my house. They loved. We'd have all kinds of cookies and cakes and chips and M&Ms and
Mhm.
soda. And I didn't mind if they all went out to McDonald's at midnight because they all showed back up at my house. And
Right.
they were all there in the morning. And I gave them bagels and lox and orange juice. And they loved being at my house. And I knew my kid was safe.
Right.
This was the compromise we made to make sure my son had his social group. It was through our a religious organization. Everybody's needs were taken care of.
Yeah.
It was a way to let my son have lots of social participation.
Mhm.
He ended up serving on the board of the group. He was vice president one year. He was secretary one year. All the boys loved coming. They all went to each other's social events. They all went to parties together, and they all ended up back at my house.
Right.
It was brilliant because I could protect my autistic daughter.
Yeah, and, we have similar things. My older boys are very involved in marching band. It is marching band competitions are very, very long days. They're very loud. They are crowded. This is not a place that my younger kiddo can handle for very long. So, we divide and conquer. I do the band stuff. Dad will bring him to watch his brothers once or twice in the season and then go home. He's not staying for the whole competition so that, my boys still get the older boys still get to participate in the things that are really good for them and that they enjoy, but it doesn't we minimize the impact on the others and everyone gets what they need, right?
Exactly. So we only have like 5 minutes. I'd like to summarize
Sure.
some of the big things we said today and see what
Yeah.
your takeaways are.
Okay.
So the big takeaways are carve out dedicated one-on-one time for every kid,
Yes.
even if it's car time. I cannot emphasize the importance of car time for teens.
Yeah. Is the where the best conversations always have taken place with
It
my
is
kids.
so important. And it doesn't have to be big event time, as you said. It's taking them out for a hamburger on the way to a sports event or a school event.
Mhm.
Dedicated time for every kid. Second is eliminate parentification. Be very clear to your younger or older kids, even if they want to take care of the more severely needs kid, that it's not their job, and be strict about it. Take
Mhm.
them out of the room, send them to their room. Be clear that you and your partner are in charge. And then have that active listening time where you validate and listen to their needs, but make it clear that it's not their job to care for the other sibling.
Mhm.
Absolutely critical. The third is maintain honest, age appropriate communication about the disabilities so everybody understands what everyone's needs are, but it's your job to take care of it. And then validate their emotions. That's that active listening time. They're allowed to be concerned,
Yeah.
even though it's not their job to take care. And the last one is understand what stress they're in. For example, teasing at school or teasing by other friends, to make sure that their emotions are not being overwhelmed by the needs of the siblings, and get them sibling support if necessary.
Yes.
Have I left anything out?
I don't think so. I think it's a complex issue. There is some balance to be found in, there's some normal sibling responsibilities, right?
Yes,
My
yes,
16-year-old has a car and we pay for his insurance, and the trade-off is that he has to do some driving for his siblings. So, there's
absolutely.
that sort of thing that we finding the balance between, yes, you can, babysit your little brother and you can help care in this way, and you are the ones who do know what's going on, and so you need to be the ones that treat him better than other people, but without putting them in the position where they feel like their needs aren't being met, or the only the one kid matters and I just have to fend for myself, and finding those balances, and a lot of it's just paying attention. It's listening. It's having those moments where you can have what might be tough conversations in safe ways. And that's just a pattern that has to be built over time.
Yes. And make sure that you and your partner, if both of you are involved,
Hmm.
or if you're co-parenting, if you're divorced, that you work together on making
Yes.
sure that you're taking care of each child's needs, and you're not by accident, out of
Hmm.
overwhelm, putting too much on the children.
Yeah, because it's not gonna, and we're talking about sibling dynamics, and a lot of that is them having good relationships with each other. Those things aren't gonna happen if there's resentment, if there's, those
Right.
kinds of feelings coming up. So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
something we have to be even more aware of than a typical family, because there are bigger needs. Bigger needs require us to be, we're
Yes.
not in parenting 10-10. We're in parenting 67-80.
And remember that sometimes things happen. Sometimes
Right,
there's an emergency and you need to call on another child to help out.
right,
That's not bad parenting. Just
right,
don't make it your everyday practice.
right. All right. It's been a great chat as
Always.
usual. Our next scheduled topic is going to be talking about those couple relationships. So, managing relationships with spouses and significant others when our families and our kids demand a lot of our time. So, look forward to that topic in our next chat.
Great.
If you have any questions or anything to add to the conversation, please leave it in the comments or reach out to either Susan or I on our other platforms. I am Nicole Has ADHD everywhere. Um, Susan, you want to share
Yep.
your
I'm
other
putting my
socials?
links there. And if you'd like to schedule just a call to chat and see how I might support you. I've put my calendar link as well.
Both of those links are also in the description of the video. So you know where to find us. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. What's working? What's not working? What questions do you have? What topics would you like us to address in a future episode? And until then, we will see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much, Nicole, for such a great conversation.
Always. It's always good to talk with you.
Always. Take care,
All right.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Maybe. Click the button. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This video is not a substitute for counseling, psychotherapy, medical, or mental health care. The information and advice shared here should not be used in place of any form of diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Information provided here does not involve diagnosis or treatment of medical or mental or psychological disorders. If you feel the need for professional support, please seek a local professional in your area. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only.